First things first, yes, I'm going to be trying to spend the night naked in the woods. Well, not quite naked. I'm gonna wear a loincloth because I don't think YouTube would want me on here naked, and you might not want me on here naked either. So, a long time ago, a friend of mine said to me, he was bragging about me way above my abilities. He said, "Oh yeah, Kenton could be thrown out into a blizzard naked, and he'd be just totally fine the next morning." And I thought, you are totally overestimating my abilities. But that's what I want to try to do here, except it's not a blizzard. I'm actually going to be a little bit easier on myself than a blizzard. It's a pretty warm winter day. And so for those of you that get concerned about me, I know that there's a lot of you that write in and are concerned that I'm being safe. And I really am going to be safe through this adventure. My clothing is going to be not far from my camp, and it's about a half-hour walk back to civilization. So I'm not going to be risking frostbite. If I take things too far, if I take things too close to too far, I will get dressed and I will make the walk home. So just to let people know that that's the case. I know that's not the way to go in a survival video, because we all want to hear that there's rabid bears that are around the next corner, and cougars tracks that I saw right over there, and all these other things that are going to kill and eat me. But I find that nature is not a harsh, terrible thing that's out to get us, and that if we can blend and flow with nature, that nature will take care of us. So that's why I'm trying this. I want to try to spend a night and just see what my skills can do. I'm not going to be using any super extravagant skills. Obviously I'm going to need to get fire, or I'm not going to make it through the night. And I haven't given this a whole lot of forethought. I'm not quite sure, if or how I'm going to manage fire without any tools. All I have on me is the loincloth that I have underneath my clothes, and that does have a leather belt around it, which I'm not allowed to use, for bow drill or anything else. And I'll have my little necklace on, which I just kind of wear to be a mental help. And it does have little claws on it, again, which I am not allowed to use as a tool. So I'm just going to see what I can do with the natural surroundings. I've also been starting to explore Tummo and other methods of physiologically raising our body temperature so that we can withstand cold. I'm not going to be playing around with any of that tonight. I'm just going to be using my normal cold conditioning that I do, trying not to wear a lot of excessive clothes in the winter, cold showers and such, and my skills. We'll see what happens. I'm glad that you're coming along with me on this adventure. I hope that it's a learning experience for both of us. I suppose most of all, this is a sort of a rite of passage for me, and just seeing what I'm capable of. And I think you've probably heard me talk in other videos of the value that I find in that sort of experience. It's not something that we usually get in our culture. And it's something that I like to try to do something at least once a year that takes me to the edge of my skills, to see how much I can mentally and physically be resilient in a situation. Oh yes, there's one other thing I'll be bringing. That's my pack here. That is my battery pack, and my obviously I'll be bringing my equipment. So this is my equipment pack for that. I do have a plastic bag in here that I bring along in case there's precipitation, because my camera is not waterproof. That I can't use either. So you'll see me walking around with that. I think that's it. So without further ado, let's see if this can happen. Yeah, it's a loincloth. I never thought I would be doing a video in a loincloth. Make sure nothing's showing. All right, I'm off. The first thing I'm going to try to do here is get fire, but my feet aren't going to last long. So I'm going to get myself a little platform off the ground and then start gathering some materials to try to make a hand drill and get a tinder bundle and see if we can get flames. No way. Okay. Well, not what I intended, but okay. I'm giving my feet their first break here. They're pretty cold already, and just recovering their warmth by tucking them up against a really warm area of the body. This will give me a little bit more time. I'm off the ground at this point, so I'm going to warm them up. I'm going to try to make my fire. Okay, a couple materials I'm going to need in order to I've got to watch myself here because there's some barbed wire on the ground, and that will go through my bare feet in a bad way. I'm gonna head over here and see what I can find for fire making materials. There's a white pine forest in the field, should be lots of good stuff. Okay, mullein, really nice hand spindle. And all through here, there is turkey tracks. All through here, there's a bunch of good tinder materials. I'm going to be gathering as much as I can. This is goldenrod, and these fluffs are really nice. And already I wasn't thinking, what I actually should be doing is picking the entire goldenrod, because it's also going to give me some good fire starting material. Okay. I'm looking for some good pine sticks. Fortunately, the advantage of a slightly warmer day also means that the sun has melted some of the snow on these and they're not as dry as I would like. So I'm going to be keeping this for firewood. Okay. Oh, still really wet. Not good, not good. This one's already broken. See, I didn't break it with that moss on there, but it feels really nice and light. Okay. And see if I can get one more. And I've got to go back and get my mullein that I dropped off a little ways back. Okay. I'll warm these feet up again because that's really my weak link, is these feet. They can only take so much before they're frostbit, so I have to keep them warm. The biggest thing in the cold for a lot of people, including me, is remembering to think. It's easy to start rushing because, for instance, here my feet are losing heat very quickly, and I know I don't have much time, so then I start to rush. My wife Rebecca has a saying. She says, "Never rush that which must be done quickly," and makes a lot of sense in a situation like this. If I move fast, that's great. I do want to move fast. But if I rush, I mess things up and forget things. Okay, I'm going to try to build an upside down fire. And means I'm going to use some of the suboptimal pieces of wood that I found. And instead of using my hands to clear out the snow, I'm going to use my feet, because I'm going to need the dexterity of my hands. Even though my feet have a lot less left in them, I really need this dexterity when I try to do the hand drill. So trying to make a careful pile over here of smaller stuff. Okay, I'm getting cold. There's enough wind that it's definitely seeping my heat pretty quickly. and have a nice collection of wood that I'm going to set aside. Not wood, but really small stuff that will burn well. And this I can use on top if my upside down fire doesn't take. I just always try to have this little backup. Okay. A spindle. Okay, there's some cracks in this, which is not good. So I'm going to be trying to go up above the cracks. And just going to hope for a clean break. Oh, it's cracking. No, no, no. Okay. When you have a cracked spindle like this, if you don't have a nice rounded edge, it will tend to snap up the length, and then you're done for. So I'm hoping that's enough. Okay. Theoretically now, I've got a spindle and a board. I have to figure out how to get a hole into this board to start this. My dentist would not like this. This is working, but I'm having to, oh, they're just waiting for me to keel over. I'm having to really try to keep my mouth dry so I don't get this wet. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can, oh, that's not gonna work. See if I can set a hole in here. But I don't have enough of a hole yet. That didn't make much sense. I'm trying to set this in and get an initial burn before I try to figure out a notch. But I don't have enough of a hole in there for it to hold yet, I can tell. And my feet are definitely on their way out. Check this out. It's grown in close to the tree. And so I've got a little tool here that I can use to make a hole. And I'm hoping it will make me a notch too. And I'm going to start that right now. I think it's going to work. Okay, what I'm doing here is an upside down fire. So I have my biggest pieces on the bottom, and then I work my way up to really thin stuff that should take really nicely. This is the crappiest notch I've ever made, but I have been able to get my spindle to spin in there, and it'll be a miracle if this notch works, but you can see it does come in to the edge, and as this burns down, I'm just gonna hope that I get something. So I'm shaking, you can see. I need to find, here, something flat. Stay to do this on. There's my base. Okay, I can see I'm going to need to cut this notch deeper. This notch is much better. I'm getting smoke. Yes. Come on, baby. Oh, come on. Oh my gosh. Oh, I nailed it. No, stay going, stay going. Oh, okay. Don't get sloppy with excitement. Okay. Okay, we got flames. Steady. and easy. Oh my gosh. That was my, I guess I got fire, and hopefully I won't have to get it again. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Look at that. Fire. Okay, now I'm gonna warm up on that fire. Okay. First my feet. I can't really feel my feet, so I'm gonna have to make sure that I'm really, taking it easy with this. Just little bursts. I don't want to burn them. Singeing a lot of hair. That's fine. Okay. So the teeth are chattering. I'm cold, but I have fire, so that's a really good thing. Now I've got to start thinking a little bit, because this is great that I have fire, but there's a whole night in front of me, and that's many, many hours. It's going to get a lot colder. Oh. As night falls. Okay, at the moment I'm just going to enjoy some heat. And then I'm going to gather some firewood, and I think I'm also going to start collecting some rocks. There were some rocks down in that valley, and if I get enough rocks going here, I could get them really warm, and I think I can create something here where I'll have hot rocks to keep me warm through the night. Oh my gosh. Woo! Oh, too hot, too hot. I chose white pine as my original wood because those little white pine branches, I don't think I have any left here. There's one. These just, they take so well, even if they're wet. And then the rest, the white pine just, it's an easy starting wood. And so, I knew once I got the tinder bundle going, that it would take the white pine. But I am gonna start getting, if I can, some downed ironwood or larger pieces. These are both ironwood here. I don't want to burn these, but because they're keeping me off the ground, but find some others, because that's going to give off more heat and it's going to burn longer, where the white pine is, it's hot, but it doesn't last a real long time. I'm having to keep coming back and re-warm. I've got one big rock. Not sure if you can see that there. And hoping to go down there and collect some more, but I'm a little bit entering into the first stage of hypothermia, so I'm gonna really make an effort here to get a really good big fire going that can warm me up. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of materials in this area to work with, and I do have a wind. A shelter would be nice, but I've chosen an area that doesn't, you know, have, I mean, the white pines are over there, but it's a cold walk on my bare feet. So, got to kind of balance things out here and decide what's going to be my best course of action. Okay. Okay, I've got a nice collection of smaller rocks here. Whoa! That's my big one. And as these little rocks absorb heat, they're gonna give me, you know, they're gonna give me something I can hold and kind of cuddle up to and, you know, place on certain parts of my body that need heat in order to really, like, you know, return some of the heat that I'm very swiftly losing here. So I might be using them on my core, might be using them the back of my neck where a lot of heat is lost, and I might be using them on my feet or extremities if I can't get these guys warmed up enough, because they're not frostbitten, but they're cold. I think hot rocks are going to be my salvation tonight. I hope. So my next mission, trying to think clearly here, is going to be to collect some more firewood and build up this fire even bigger, and then get a few more rocks, and then try to build some kind of a windbreak on the back over here so that I'm not getting, you know, losing so much to the wind. This foot's almost, well, not really. I was gonna say it's almost back to normal. This one I got a little too cold. I'm trying to bring it back to life here. So in this situation, the tricky part is that I have to balance out the coldness of my extremities, in this case my feet, and my core temperature. I need to block this wind. Burned myself a little bit there. I need to block this wind because if I don't, I'm losing a lot of core temp. And even with a big fire on this side, the amount I'm losing to the back, I'm playing a losing game there. But to go out and gather materials to build a shelter is going to take a lot out of my feet. My feet have already been very abused. So, particularly my toes here, I have to see if I can get them back to some semblance of normalcy before I try to build this windbreak. But the more I think, everything in me is saying I've got to block this wind, because that's just killing me right now. here's that crappy notch. You can see why I thought it wasn't gonna go through and I was gonna stop again, but then there's this little hole in it. So it went right through and fell down through that hole. Sorry, I can't hold things very well because I'm shaking so much. But I guess I shouldn't call it a crappy notch because it worked really well. Okay, so what I'm doing is I've got this branch here and I'm going to try to collect some logs and place them upright along here to block the wind. If I can block the wind and build this fire up more, it'll really, really help. Okay, here's what's going on. I started putting some logs up here, but the cost to my feet to go out there and gather materials in this ecosystem, which is a little sparse in materials, is too much. So I lose too much through my feet to warrant trying to make this work. Here, I'll show you what we've got out here. This ecosystem just doesn't have a lot of materials to work with. So, you know, I went out and I collected these two uprights thinking I could fill this all in with uprights, but it's not gonna happen. So again, sorry for the camera shake if it's shaking because it's pretty cold. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build kind of a long fire back behind here so that the heat coming from my back, the wind, is going to be warm. And then I'll have this fire in front where I'm heating up rocks, and that hopefully will be enough. But if I don't do something about that wind behind me very soon, it's going to be game over because I'm now losing core body heat. Okay, I'm losing sunlight fast, which isn't good, but I've started to put together a little shelter behind me. And I'm using a hot rock right now. This one's just perfect that it's, you know, I can tell with my hands that I can touch it for a little while. And then I can rest my feet on it and not leave them on there too long because they will burn. These rocks can get really, really hot. You can see the steam coming off. It's not smoke. Luckily it's steam. You might be able to see it. But this is letting me warm those toes back up as I continue to gather materials to try to build a wind block and gather firewood. It's going to be a lot more difficult to gather firewood after it gets dark. Okay, here's what I've got going. It's very crude, but I'm sitting right in here. I've got a nice little wind block and a good fire with all my hot rocks to keep me warm. And so I'm gonna keep building on this and collecting firewood. And so far, I'm still losing too much heat to make it through the night, but if I can cuddle down in here and warm myself up with some of those hot rocks, I can regain my heat. Unfortunately, I still have to gather a lot of firewood before I can do that because I'm losing the sun. Got a little bit more. There it is. Okay, this is looking more likely. Still really cold, but what I'm doing now, as you can see, I have a little bit of a windbreak behind me, which is helping a lot. I've got these nice warm rocks that I have to check with my hands, sometimes my wrists, to make sure that they're not too hot because it's hard to feel. But then on this side's too hot, it'd burn instantly, but on this side, I can put my foot down, can rest on the rock. This rock is warming my hands, which have been working hard, and I'm starting to use it on my core too. Well, it's a little hot for that. One trick is that if you have these facing, like this one, this side was facing the fire, so this side is really hot. I can use it to warm my feet if I do it sporadically. The other side is nice and hot, but not as hot. It won't burn me, so I can hold it up against my core. What I have going here is basically a fire that I can feed throughout the night. This won't be enough, but if I can get about 10 more logs like this, then I can just pull them down and keep them feeding nicely into the fire all throughout the night. I'm on a slope here, so it's really nice. It won't take much effort at all to pull them down towards me. This rock on my belly, it's really nice. Finally, I feel like I'm starting to stabilize. I'm no longer losing heat, but still, it's going to get a lot colder tonight. Probably looking like a mess too. Here I am with my pet rock, and I've got a good fire, and my tripod's hot, and a nice collection of wood. I think I still need more, but now I'm just going to hunker down for a little while and see if I can really regain a bunch of my body heat. I'd like to be cozy. I am losing my son, but I really probably just need a few more really big logs in order to make it through the night. So I'm going to just risk losing some time in order to warm back up. Again, it's my feet. They're having the most problem. They're down here on a hot rock, and I'm going to see what I can do to really warm them up. Okay, it's crude, but here I am. I've got a nice supply back here of smaller sticks. It's out of the range of the camera, I'm afraid. Those are to put underneath here in case these big ones are too high. The way I have it set up, they're a little bit high, and it's actually nice because it's going to keep them burning slow and warm. I don't really want a lot of heat, otherwise I'm going to be blasted out of my little shelter here because it's so small. But if I can keep it just like this, and got my hot rocks for my feet, pretty comfortable. So that's what I'm hoping will keep me going through the night. My feet are not happy, but nor are they in the danger zone anymore. And I'm able to heat rocks right up here and keep them warm. And then I can use them. That's a little bit too hot. I can use them on my body. There goes the sun. And the camera isn't shaking so much anymore. That's because I'm kind of warm. Well, not warm, but that would be lying. But I'm not freezing anymore. Well, it's a lot darker, obviously, and it is colder, but I'm warm. And these hot rocks really do the trick. I've got them on my feet, and I've got one I've been warming up here. It's a little too hot to hold at the moment, but I'm letting it cool down, and then I'll bring it up against my body more. You know, I think something that's missing in our culture is a feeling of being vibrantly alive. Our culture gives us all kinds of stand-ins. They call it entertainment, right? And entertainment is it gives us a vicarious feeling of being alive. So we watch a movie and we can kind of pretend we're Wolverine beating up a bunch of people, or traveling to some amazing place. We're Frodo in Middle Earth, and we can play video games, and those give us a feeling too, because actually we get to be right in the action and shooting at things, or going on adventures, or wielding magic, and so these things give us that feeling, but we know it's a fantasy. We know it's not real. Even sports. We watch sports and we shout and we cheer on our heroes and we criticize them when they don't do a good job. But we're sitting on our couches, and if you're watching this, you're a person. I just know that loves that feeling of being alive, and there's that passion in you. And maybe you've found ways to capture that and find it and nurture it, cultivate it in your life. Maybe it just feels like it's completely missing. When our culture teaches comfort, and because comfort is kind of numbing, it gives us the entertainment to try to, make things feel more alive. But it just doesn't work. And I would love to hear from you in the comments about if you felt this desire to be alive, how you've cultivated it, what you've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And I think by all of us sharing, we can help each other to start to find this more in our lives. Because we don't have to go out and spend a night naked in the woods. We don't have to go and do some adrenaline junkie thing, and we don't have to take these pale imitation handouts that our culture gives us. The movies and the video games. I've found in my life that I can feel vibrantly alive in every moment, and that's something I try to share with students that come out here, and it's something I'm trying to share through that online course that I just put out, and it's something I try to share in a lot of these videos. But I know that you all have wisdom too, and you have ways that you've explored this. So please, down there in the comments, share what's worked for you, what hasn't, what you've tried. I can envision a world where we all have that feeling of just feeling so alive. When, in a way, it almost wouldn't work in our current system, because our current system needs us to buy, the nice car that's going to make us feel cool, and the Xbox that's going to make us feel like we have adventure in our lives. And without us purchasing those things, it's going to shift our culture. But I can envision that, a culture where we don't need all those things because we're feeling alive right now, just in a conversation with somebody, just when we eat. If we skip a meal, if we just skip one meal, and then we eat the next meal, how good it tastes, how fulfilling, and just, it's amazing. But when we have that perfect comfort of eating constantly, usually overeating constantly, then we never get to experience what it's like to be hungry. I'm going to settle in for the night here, curl up on this and see if I can actually get a little bit of sleep. I'm going to be able to pull these down through the night, and I've got, this rock is really just becoming my best friend here. I'm going to keep this rock with me, and there's others that I can put my feet on, my body on, And I think I might actually be warm tonight. Coyotes calling. It's nice to know I'm not alone out here. Look at that moon. Nice thing about when it's this full is that it rises and sets just about opposite the sun. So I can watch it go across the sky, and you can see it moving even there. And it will tell me when the sun's going to rise. Good morning. I won't say that that was a comfortable night, but mission accomplished. I made it through, and now the morning birds are singing and the sun is coming up over the horizon. Quite a feeling. This, in my little shelter, worked pretty well. This kept the wind off if I stayed, really huddled down in there. And I guess some problems I had were I had a support bar here and one here, and my logs were feeding over this, and eventually that burned through and this one fell and caused things to topple, and I had to do a little rebuilding of my shelter during the night. But otherwise, that feeding method worked really well, and this actually, when this came down, it oddly made things a little bit more comfortable. I didn't actually get any sleep, I don't think, but that angle was more comfortable for some reason, a little bit lower down. And it made feeding the logs easier because I had that bar here that they had to come up over, and then they rested right down in the fire. So the fire made things easier for itself and for me, I guess. This is the whole secret to making it through a night like this, are these hot rocks. And there's an art to this. It's, as I said before, if there's one side facing the fire and the other side isn't, this side can get too hot to touch and this side can be just right. But the other real trick to this is if you cook them slowly, then the heat will go into their core, and then they'll hold heat for a long time. I mean, this can have good heat for an hour or more. And if I just heat it up quickly, which is what I used to tend to do, then it'll have good heat, but it won't last a long time, and I'm constantly cooking rocks. But this way I could cook them slowly and then trade off rocks and have nice rocks that I could hold up against my body. And back of the neck really tends to warm you, along where your major blood flow is, up against the core, and the extremities, of course, the hands and the feet. I thought I might have to use some of the wood, in my little shelter and platform as firewood, but I didn't. So that was really nice. I did make one run during the night to get some smaller pieces before this fell through, because it wasn't when you do that feed-in fire, if it's not feeding right onto the ground, then that has trouble, the base of the fire, the heart of the fire, has trouble coming up and keeping that fire alive. So I had a little collection here, and I used that up, and had to go and get some more. But that was fine, because by then, I had a really good heat base here and could just put my feet on these rocks and they were just fine. You've probably experienced one of these nights if you've been out camping or something, when it's just endless. And this was one of those nights that went on for eternity. And I showed you earlier the moon and talked about how at that phase it was, it roughly correlates with the sun's rising and setting. And so it gave me a really good idea of when the sun was going to come up. And in effect, it was like I had a timepiece. And I think that got my mind, not as disciplined as I thought, got my mind thinking about, the end of this experience a little bit. And then that makes it last longer instead of really absorbing straight into it. That's why I always try to have students, even when I'm camping with friends, and I really encourage people not to bring timepieces, because timepieces change our perception of time. So I think in a way, if the moon had not been up, this experience could have been even more powerful. I mean, it was awesome to have the full moon throughout the night, but it also was a timepiece, and that detracted a little bit. Most of all, I just want to thank you for coming along on this adventure with me. And it was a chance for me to see what I was capable of, mostly mentally. I don't think this was physically a horrible, horrible challenge. Because once I got fire, and that fire came surprisingly easily, then things went pretty well. But it was a long, kind of, I won't say cold, but it was a long night where it was hot on this side, it was cold on my back, and so it was a long, uncomfortable night. It always reminds me when I'm doing things like this, that there's people that are having medical issues or are in other situations in their lives that they can't get out of. I had a ready escape if I needed it. And it really makes you feel compassion for people that might be caught, in a hospital bed for weeks or months, enduring pain and discomfort that makes what I experienced tonight look like nothing. So, that's a good reminder to me, and I think to all of us, that we can watch these survival programs and see people doing all these extreme things, but those people are not as heroic in a way as going as deep into their physical and mental resources as a lot of normal people. It might be some woman in her 80s who's in that hospital bed and is just trying to get through each day, maybe each breath. That's a powerful realization for me. I'm gonna go ahead and head home. Thank you so much for watching. And again, please share in the comments your thoughts, your experiences with taking things to your edge, or places in your life where you haven't had a choice and you've had to take things to your mental and physical edge. And how did you deal with it? How did you get through? I'm sure your stories can inspire us all. Boots. Feels pretty good.